myself, Justin, Nick, and Diane will be joining online. And then in the media center, you have myself, I got Angie Van Zee, I have Mark Meyer, I've got Corey Curry, Bill Mills, Vicky, Maud, Tara, Nelson, and Corey Larson. I'm thinking Sarah Suki is coming in. She might be zooming in. And then I have the rest of the staff online. We are live streaming at this time, and ready when you're ready.
Very well, we'll wait a minute here.
Sarah Suki just arrived.
Diane's present.
She is.
It's 6 feet. I'm not up there. Okay. Over there, in the corner. No one puts me in the corner.
At 6:15, Jeffrey, if I can have you lead us and recite the pledge, please.
Yes, sir. Stand and say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's have a roll. We can have everybody voice with the present. Parsons.
Yes.
Christensen, yes. Lucasberg. Yes. Holker.
Yes.
Green just vanished. Meyer.
Yes.
Lovato.
Yes.
And Reichman.
Not yet.
Okay. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Lucasberg, do we have a second?
Lovato, second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Parsons.
Yes.
Christensen, yes. Lucasberg. Yes. Holberg.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Lovato.
Yes.
Reichman. Okay. Motion approved. Let's move on to COVID-19 operational update. Chip.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, our district leaders and community members listening in tonight. Just for the record, Director Reichman is entered, so if you want to mark him present. The reason we're meeting tonight is we got news last week. Well, our last board meeting, we decided that we would get a work session tonight. Our last board meeting on the 20th, I recommended we have a work session tonight pending further guidance from the governor, which we got last Thursday. And we want to make sure that we maybe had a comprehensive plan as we approach the month of May. And so with that further guidance, we had an initial meeting with our leadership team on Friday to put a rough agenda together. And then we met again this morning to put a finalized plan that we wanted to share with the members of the board to get feedback as we present to our community members and our staff likely tomorrow. Kind of the facts we know as we have it right now is that this Friday, and the original plan had distance learning going to April 30th. That plan with staff development being the 1st and the 4th, and students returning to our buildings on May 5th. Guidance from the governor last week directed that distance learning will continue through the end of the school year. We will still keep the staff development days, which will count as student contact days on May 1st and May 4th. So we will not have students, obviously not in our building, but there will also be no direct instruction on Friday and Monday. So I just want to put that out there now. We'll need to communicate to parents starting tomorrow, but that was the initial plan. It's been on our website. There will be no student contact
can.
Okay, so just forgive all my other dates are on my calendar, I'm sorry, but this is just for everybody's situational awareness. So what we do know is that we're gonna have distance learning to the end of the year. We also know there's been some challenges with distance learning. There's been great successes and there's been challenges. Not by anybody's, fault, but if distance learning was the best way of instruction, we would sell these buildings in the next 2 weeks, move into downtown, and we would all have cubicles, and we could probably reduce our costs by about, a couple $1 million a year. My point is that we know that teaching and learning is about relationships, and it's about developing kids, and a lot of times that takes face-to-face contact, which we don't have. Everyone's been working extremely hard. So what we're going to present to you tonight for your review is this. Our proposal is this. The facts are June 1st is a staff development day. It's been on our calendar approved a year ago. What we would do is June 1st be the last day that any of our staff that are not 12-month employees would be, I don't want to say never not allowed in our building, but all district operations other than 12-month employees would cease, meaning our buildings would be officially closed, except for programs we continue to offer. And so if you're a regular classroom teacher, if you're a regular para, your school year is ended June 1st, we would ask that you're not going to be back in our building because we would have nobody to screen you at the doors. We wouldn't have really the ability to monitor every classroom, and we'd go to summer operations and cleaning and recovery to prepare for the following year. Our 12-month employees would continue to operate and only be on campus when needed. Our offices would be down to minimum manning, but we would probably go into June and probably more look like a ghost town in our buildings. It also allows Corey to really to focus on preparing for next year and not re-cleaning as people come in and out of our building. We know that most likely summer activities aren't going to be allowed to have like it's normal. Most likely you're going to see out here is Laker Legends and Community Ed, which is a form of school-age care, but no longer is it free. It's a fee to Community Ed. Okay, so you would see that. We're also going to take advantage of maybe this distance learning, and we would ask a lot of our teachers, which this plan is going to be communicated out based on approval, that all the moves from classrooms of what you're teaching this year to next year, and any classrooms that have been identified for carpet removal, asbestos removal, we would take advantage of getting our building early to maybe get as much carpeting and asbestos removal done this summer because it's going to be a lot quieter this summer, and who knows what might be happening in the future, and so we would take advantage of it. So bring everybody back. I would propose that we make a modification to our calendar. The last direct instructional day or distance learning day with students would be May 22nd. Currently it's May 29th. By statute, you need to have 165 days. We have 169. And we had one distance learning day. We didn't have any snow days. So we'll have 169 in. So instead of having kids here till the 29th, I propose we make a modification our next board meeting to change our school calendar to May 22nd. All staff, now when I say report, that does not mean every staff member is going to come into our building. We would leverage staff to collect devices, move classrooms, and basically button everything up for the summer, the week of the 26th through the 29th. We would have graduation the night of the 29th. Our backup day for graduation would be the 28th. I met with the senior leaders, with Mr. Larson today and Ms. Rose, and our senior class advisors, and they would prefer to have graduation the night of the 29th, most likely starting at 8 o'clock. They'd like to have fireworks that night. They'll be in our parking lot. They'll be in the cars. There'll be a canopy with a stage. That'll be kind of weatherproof. And the alternate would be Thursday. So if it's a rain out with severe weather, then we would move to Thursday. We would have rehearsal on the 27th. What that looks like specifically, it'd be kind of a dress rehearsal. So what would it look like? We'd probably launch a parade starting at 6:30 through our communities. We're reviewing the Complete Streets project of Starbucks because there might be some delays or detours. And we're trying to figure out how we're going to get through Ballard and Lowry, and if that's possible, and if that'd be safe putting 80 kids on the road, because you're also coming off a Friday night weekend with a lot of people coming out to their cabins. So my guess is it's going to be Starbucks and Glenwood. And if you want to go take a parade in boulevard, and then you do that on your way in, just to keep it safe for our students. That parade will probably start around 6:30. It would parade through. We would work with our chief police and sheriff. This has not been presented to them. They would roll out here. They would get staged in on three-stage parking. They'd each get a parking pass as they walk in to limit how many people in our parking lot, because you can't invite everybody. You're limited to how many parking spots we have. It would be televised over the radio using our local radio. There'd be a stage, there'd be speakers, and then there would be fireworks at the end that the senior class is paying for. But on the day of the 29th, we would ask all of our staff when they go home that day that they won't come back. On June 1st, we have makeup day if they need to come in one last time. But as they walk home out the 29th, that'd be our last, report to physical work, if at all. So what we would do is move, you'll see in our plan, device pickup that week, where we leverage some of our staff to collect devices from our elementary. Mark, I think our 8th graders and our seniors. I need to make sure I'll go through the report you actually would have known. Sure. Then our last student contact day, the week of the 18th to the 22nd will be finals. And that's not just final test, that's finals week, so final touch points. So for Sarah, it might look a little more like field trips and virtual field trips, but ending things up. The other thing is we would focus 90% of our energy into 10% that maybe distance learning is going to struggle. Our goal is to have every student have absolute opportunity to pass. One of the things I've read recently is, the kids that are doing well, I mean, I don't want to cause any drop, but it's privilege. Not everybody has to have internet in their house. And you wouldn't want getting good grades because you have the privilege of having internet. There is still 6% of our families that don't. There are some families whose kids are working 40 hours a week. The other thing is distance learning doesn't work for everybody. We also know a lot of our kids who are disabled that maybe struggle. It's been the biggest struggle for them. And so we want to spend a lot of our energy in the last week really determining how can we help you get through this year so a 9th grader becomes a 10th grader. It's also allow our staff to decompress. I think it's been very stressful on our staff and really collect all of our items up. And also I think to capture our lessons learned. I don't want to be the negative Nelly, but there's a very good chance we could come right back to distance learning in the fall. And so we want to make sure that we take the best of what we've been doing. So as we take a break with our families and our staff and our students, we capture the very best we prepare for next year. So all that word means this. So the 29th will be last student contact day, the 22nd will be. The week of the 18th to the 22nd will be finals. What does that mean? It's not necessarily everybody's taking a final exam, but it's to make sure all the final learning outcomes for the year are completed that week. We would really focus our energy on our kids and families who have struggled. The week of the 26th to the 29th, we'll be collecting devices, closing all our rooms, and closing all our offices. The next 2 weeks, so this Friday, we would ask our staff to, there would be a video they could watch. We're not asking anybody to physically all report to work on Friday and Monday, as there are a lot of videos and lessons being provided on MDE, placement your service co-op, and I also think our experts are right here in our building. Within grade levels, there are things that are working really well. We need to steal from each other. Instead of having kids those 2 days, I want to steal what Angie's doing, and Angie wants to steal what I'm doing, and we continue to do the things that work well by grade level and by department, and then work from there. I would ask that, I've asked my principals about the plan where we would keep this the lowest risk. So if that means if we're going to have the science department come in, either if they feel comfortable coming into the building, they come in the building, they go to the science department.
fall behind and went forward. You know, those things.
Mr. Parsons?
Yeah.
Agree? No? Looks good. Over. Director Meyer? Any
No
questions?
concerns.
Okay. Director Savajo?
Looks good.
Director Huesberg?
No, it's good.
Mr. Chair?
Have we reached out to KMGK? You and I had some discussion about that as far as maybe having some audio broadcast of the graduation.
So our seniors, I think Mr. Meyer, Jackson Meyer is taking that on. And then, I know that, our student secretary, he's contacting our retirees. They do have a script, they've gone through an agenda, we meet every Monday, so yes, that work has been initiated.
Very well, thank you.
So at this time, Mr. Chair, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through maybe the nuts and bolts. Now listen to this plan. For a lot of people who are at home watching this, the reason you can't see it is because it's just not been shared out because this is a draft. So the board can take no formal action tonight. We're just showing you the menu. You're gonna give us feedback and you get to taste test it, as we go forward. Just so everybody knows in the community, this isn't an action item. This is just feedback. All your leaders got together the last 48 hours to put together the plan. So this is just, the very front of this is just, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so we can see. The front pages is just all the guidance we're getting from the governor. The very first thing we've been directed by MD is we have to repost our distance learning plan no later than Monday the 4th. So we have to update our website. So that's what you're gonna see in these first few things. And then you're gonna see all the resource pages. There's a number of documents coming forward. And then we're gonna go to the next one. So Sarah, I'm gonna just turn over to you for a 2-minute overview of what you think May looks like, the first week, the staff development week, staff development days, and then what that 2 weeks of instructional finals weeks looks like.
Okay. So as
You go there or over here so people can see you, or how about you sit right there, Ms. Myers, or Justin's chair. Diane looks better.
where am I? All right. So the first and the fourth are really meeting in grade level teams, and so there will be a district message, and then I will meet with each grade level team or department throughout May 1st and 4th. Really just to cover about what's going well, what are we using for a variety of things that we're seeing that we have some concerns about. One would be Zoom and versus Google Meet, and some of the things that we're seeing with students and their behaviors that they can do in Google Meet that they wouldn't be able to do in Zoom. So just a little bit of things that we would go through, and then also things that are required for the end of the school year. So we have a variety of pieces that we collect or prepare for. So what that might look like for them. When we go to May 5th through the 7th, that's regular instruction for us. May 8th, we would like to do a parade through all of our communities. And so we would really love to see our kids and we will be working on a plan to start Villard, Glenwood, Starbuck, and Lowry, and to work with their, with law enforcement and such to help us have a plan to go through each one, and it's up to our staff if they want to join. There would be no academics on Friday, May 8th. May 11th through 15th is our last instructional week. We would have regular instruction Monday through Thursday on that week. Then catch-up day or anything that needs to be brought in, or not brought in, but completed would be on the 15th. And so that would be really our last day with our whole groups. May 18th through the 22nd is finals week, which we actually, so we would do all of our ELOs. So there's a lot of assessments that we do at the end of the school year to work on grading. If you remember, some of you have older children, but we only grade 2 times a year. So what we have for report cards, quite a bit of testing that we do at the very end so that we can make sure that reporting is as close to a representative of what they're actually doing. Certainly where it's a little different when you're not face to face, and so we know that and we'll share that with families, but we will use that week to do assessments. And then just some end of the year celebrations, virtual field trips, things like that. Then the last week for us, staff potentially is in doing some device collection. We'll be doing inventories and then professional development stuff that's required. We have some staff, because as we're moving to E3, 4 through 8, those types of things, we have some moves that will happen, and so those would happen also during that time, so that starting June 1st, the buildings would really be shut down June and July for any of our regular staff.
So one of the things we're gonna be doing is, during this 3-week period here called May is, it's provisional, but, one of the things working with Vicky is, I think one thing that everybody needs to take under their mindset is, yes, we're gonna get our money, so if you're an employee who's in a full-time status right now, you will continue to get paid the rest of the school year. There are no other cuts, we've been directed to continue to pay people, but a lot of it's been on no formal, like, there is no what if formula in MDE to figure out what kind of revenue we say we're going to get next year. Now, we're supposed to get a 2% increase next year, right? We've settled all of our contracts based on 2 and 2 by the state bonding, or the finance here. So right now you can't go into MD, but we're gonna be a conservative. So we know, because we have title funds coming in, we're looking at potentially reducing one title staff member until July 1st. So that means is, we're not reducing anybody, we're just not gonna hire until after July 1st for our elementary position, because we just don't know. And so we've made some staffing decisions, looked at some finances. I'll be getting the finance committee together next week to review what we're planning for June for next year, that you'll approve the budget. So, right now we're just doing the final. So that point being is that there'll be some teachers potentially moving from this building to elementary to this building. There are some people retiring, they will be cleaning out their classrooms soon because during time. The goal is that at the end of the year, there's no straight time sheets that walk in the 3rd week of June because somebody decided to come in. Our files will be disabled unless you have an external key. You're not going to get in unless you have a prearranged, meeting that somebody's going to open the door. So our 12-month employees will continue to get access, but we're truly going to close our buildings because there's not supposed to be anybody here. Okay. Any questions for Sarah, Suki? Okay, I'd like to, at this point, turn it over to Mr. Larson to talk about our high school. Right?
Yeah, not that much different probably than what Sarah just kind of presented, as well as Mr. Rankin had shared out. Obviously, we're not going to have direct instruction on the 1st and the 4th, so what that Friday looks like is in the morning. I believe that Mr. Rankin was going to address the staff, and then we're going to sit down in that morning and have department meetings. It'll be face-to-face on campus. What I have to say to them has to be a direct conversation.
Corey,
Yeah,
can I
go
have
ahead.
you move closer to the mic, please?
Yep, I'll switch. Sorry about that. Just a quick recap, what I have to present here is that probably that much different than what Ms. Suki and Mr. Rankin had just kind of prepared for you, but if you want to just scroll down just a little bit, Mr. Rankin. Just looking at this Friday and Monday, obviously we're not going to be providing direct instructions. Staff will be available to answer questions of students and that sort of thing, but it's really a professional development day. What that morning looks like this Friday morning is I think Mr. Rankin is going to be addressing the district, and then after that I'm going to be breaking out to department meetings. I'm planning on face-to-face conversations. What I have to say to them is extremely important, that they have to be very predictable with what they are going to be telling the students with regards to students that are struggling. We're going to be focusing our time at the end here this last month or the last week of school. We're going to be really focusing on those 10%ers. I got a listing today. We are double the amount of D's and F's, which is concerning to me. Although I do believe that distance learning and I champion the teachers and the phenomenal things that are going on. Students are struggling big time. Not all, but some, and so we need to really channel our energies accordingly. And then they're going to have time to prepare, and so that's what Monday will look like. And then we're going to hit the ground running on May 5th through 8th. You're going to be looking at academics. We're going to continue instruction, and then we're going to allow Fridays off. And so those are going to be catch-up days to support students. So no direct instruction during the month of May. So that would be both the 8th and the 15th. There'd be no formal instruction. A lot of our students, their last instructional day would be on the 15th, and then we're going to move into that the 18th through the 22nd will be finals day. It might be a final activity, a final assignment, or it might be a final exam. I know Allie and Jack Larson will probably have their last instructional day on the 15th, and then they're going to come into that 18th and 22nd and then probably take a final exam with their teachers. But really, that 18th and 22nd is going to be very prescriptive to those students that are struggling. Here's what you need to do to pass my class. Here's the essential learning outcomes. Here's the activities that are going to get you there. If I need to bus you, we've come up with ideas that even if we need to get get them on campus. I'm not saying it's happening, but we're trying to put all of our ideas on the table, and nothing is getting discredited. We're going to do whatever we can to make sure that these kids are provided the opportunity to pass with lots of support. And so that's really the focus of the 18th to the 22nd. If you want to scroll down, Mr. Rankin. And then the 26th to the 29th, obviously there's no direct instruction. We're going to be focusing on device collection that week. It'd be 3 days. I know Mr. Meyer's going to review some of that. We're going to go through some inventory. On the 28th and the 28th and 29th, there will be professional development days. We've got probably 4, which equates to 8 because they're going to be flip-flopping rooms. We have kind of a schematic that we'd like to see, but there's going to be some moving rooms so that we can program better, where we have 7th and 8th grade teachers working and close next to each other for next year. We can do some work on our advisory program, on to college that we're offering, some pacing guides, some staff. Sometimes they have 8 to 10 different courses that they teach, so they are taking a little bit additional time to complete their pacing guides, so they need to complete those, and then just really a staff checkout process. So those days would be reserved for physical moving of rooms. All staff would be required to do a physical checkout with me. Some need to turn in their keys. There's just reasons to need to be in front of me, as well as we go through requisitions and any purchase order items. And then you want to just scroll down a little bit. So that's more or less the academic timeline. Just I think Mr. Rankin touched on some of these other items too. Right now, prom is up in the air. That's to be determined. We're not totally sure that that's going to happen. Honor banquet and scholarship night would still be reserved for that same night. We don't have the times, but it looks like it's probably going to be maybe starting at around 7 o'clock. The honor banquet, and then a lot of this would be virtual, of course. And then we're going to do some scholarship night opportunity there too. Regular board meeting would be at 7 o'clock on the 18th. Baccalaureate, that is still in the mix. It looks like it's going to be held on the 20th. We don't know the specifics of that. And then last meal delivery, we're going to do some meal delivery, but the last time that's going to happen for students in our district will be the 22nd. Graduation practice, which would be Wednesday the 27th, and then followed by graduation. So there's going to be some things here where it's not going to be the same. It's going to be different, and we're going to do the best job that we can. I hope that you would concur. There have been some staff that have made a conscious effort to recognize their seniors through Facebooking, doing these signs. They had a big loss this year, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that they are still recognized and honored. That's why I'm proud of this timeline. It gives the students an opportunity to be recognized, and that's what springtime in May is all about. Device checkout, we anticipate that probably the seniors will get an opportunity to still buy their device if they so choose, and then our grades 9 through 11 would end up keeping their devices for the summer. The hours of drop-off, which of course is listed there, but then if you want to just scroll, Mr. Rankin, just down a little bit.
I was going to have Mark hit this. He's right.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Mark, you want to talk a little about device collection and how that might work?
We'll have the device collection for 2 through 8. We're going to have all those students return their devices. The Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tuesday and Thursday, we'll have it from 8 to 3:30. And then on Wednesday, for those that can't get off, if they're working during the day, we're from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So they can stop out after they get done with work to get their devices in. We'll have them at both schools. We'd like them to return them to the school that they are in, but if second grade, if you also have a 6th grader, we'll let you dump them off whatever school you like. We'll make accommodations for whoever. We're also going to offer for our 9 through 11 grade students to keep their device for the summer. It would be just as if it was the school year. If they have insurance, if they have a damage, they can use their insurance to get it fixed. If they don't have insurance and kept the device, then they would be responsible for the repairs of it. And if the parents don't want them to have it over the summer and fear that they would break it, they can also just drop it off. It's just an offer. They can keep them during the summer if they would like to.
So grades 9 through 11, is that this year 9th grader?
This year's, yep.
So an 8th grader this year turns it in?
Yep, they'll be getting a new device is one of the reasons we did that, so.
Just to be clear.
Yep. And then the seniors, we want them to return it on Tuesday. The devices, or the seniors to return it on Tuesday so we can go through them, and if there's any issues, we'll have it before graduation. And as well as if they're gonna purchase them, we have to do some steps. We gotta remove products that we installed as a district. They'll just get a plain Jane laptop if they purchase it. Okay?
I guess the only reason I wanted to just finish up here with that grading topic there, Mr. Rank, if you want to just keep going down there. With regards to grading, everybody's going to probably have an opinion about this. I've heard from over 50 people, probably, a lot of them students as well as a lot of staff. And I would say probably 99% of them have indicated that they would like to see some of the traditional grading process and not go to the pass and fail. But there's going to be instances where that might fit a particular student, in particular it might be a special ed student, or whatever the case might be. We're going to toss this around in our building leadership team meeting this Wednesday and give you a formal recommendation. Right now, it's kind of leaning towards that we would probably offer that traditional grading practice. That's what the kids are telling us that they would like to see, but there might be an opportunity there, and if they want to go down this path of a pass-fail, having the parents be able to weigh in on that decision and do a permission form.
Questions of Mr. Larson? Let's go around the table.
I just want to say that, just to think about, for the staff and stuff as we move forward, that there's a lot of students that maybe are in that C, D, F range and they're struggling right now. To not be as harsh as maybe we would normally be, just to reiterate that, and I know that we've done a good job, the staff has done a great job with that, but to think like a student, some of these students, obviously not in sports, not in school, not seeing their teachers, not seeing the things they normally see, and then on top of that, maybe their moms or dads lost jobs, so the added stress of getting piled on with work or trying to do this, so just the amount of stress is really something that we really have to take very sincerely and making sure that they do basically what I'm trying to say is, if they give any kind of effort at all, I'd like to sure see them this year in this situation move forward and not penalize them, because we don't know every situation out there, and there's a lot of them that really are getting maybe hammered both rails. So
I think what you just described there is why I want to have staff at a face-to-face department meeting on Friday.
Yep.
For one, I haven't seen them face-to-face in quite a while. We've been having a lot of Zoom meetings. Zoom meetings are great, but if everybody did this, we wouldn't need to do a face-to-face. We know that relationships are an important part of this business,
Yep.
and they will know that this is a big deal to me and our community, and we need to make sure that people are very clear on what the expectations are. Flexibility is a must.
Mr. Parsons?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Eichmann?
I'd just like to thank the teachers. I know a couple of questions with my boys. I mean, Sunday nights they'd be meeting with a teacher, talking to a teacher. So a lot of weird times and a lot of just things getting done at whenever it can get done. So that's, I think, really accommodating and really appreciated, I think, by a lot of people, and people just need to know how that's been going. I guess a question for Mr. Larson, when you said about double the kids are having trouble, is it in certain subjects, or is it across the board?
It's across the board right now, and it's not only across the board, but it's across grade levels. And so usually a lot of these are into that 9 through 12. When I open up the documents today to see the midterms and where they're at, just to get a checkpoint, typically it's overwhelmingly slanted towards 9 through 12. I'm seeing it 7 through 12 right now, which is discerning, but I'm not totally shocked. We've got a list of, and here's another thing that we implemented over the last couple years or a couple weeks is we have an MIA list, missing in action, and we have staff that are making pointed phone calls, parent meetings, through Zoom meetings, saying, okay, we're checking into the student, but what are the next steps? How are we going to change this around? What support are you needed to make sure? So I'm hoping that those things work.
Mr. Gooseberg? Anything?
No, just kind of reflect, I agree with what, Mr. Holbrook was saying. Obviously we have a lot of new uncharted waters here. We've got students that are finding different ways of trying to learn. I appreciate the flexibility of the staff, the efforts of the staff. It's been a learning process the entire way. I echo what he was saying in having some of the flexibility here. With just in families that I've been around, and kids that I know that are super really good kids, very, very smart. You miss assignments here and there. All of a sudden we found at the end of the midterm last week, we got in the panic mode of a lot of different families because we had stuff that kids thought they had turned in, thought had been done, and weren't. So obviously it's a learning experiment for everybody. I just appreciate the staff, the district's flexibility, getting out to these students, making sure that we get reminders out to them on what we need to get in and what's not been in. Because as parents, we don't always see every single thing or trying to understand Google Classroom and everything else. And us as parents have never dealt with it, so it can be definitely a challenge for all the parents out there for sure. So just good work obviously by the staff, and appreciate the understanding for the kids moving forward at the end of the year.
Mr. Savajal, anything? Okay. Director Meyer?
No, nothing more, Jeff.
Mr. Chair?
No, sir.
We're gonna touch on next, Kelly, you wanna talk a little about WIN?
Sure. We don't have a lot that's different than I would say the high school and elementary as far as what we're going to be doing, just continuing with the academics and the mental health piece. However, we're looking at doing a little bit more project-based learning in May, just to keep them focused and engaged. And I know some of our teachers are spending a lot more time just doing one-on-one and actually walking kids through their work, just to make sure that it's getting done. We're having a little bit more success with that. And then we've been offering incentives for kids that get all of their work turned in and have all of their mental health meetings. And that has been going well. So they're working hard there. And then we will have a lot of ESY meetings. As you know, all of our kids have to have ESY meetings in the month of May. So we'll be spending a lot of time getting those set up and doing them. And then just planning for what summer was going to look like with our kids for that ESY piece. And I believe that's going to be that telemedicine, at least for June. I would venture to guess maybe the rest of the summer.
Okay.
And then our kids, by the way, too, probably will need to keep their devices. We won't have check-in or device turn-in, because they'll need them for that telemedicine piece.
Okay. One of the things we are targeting is, especially the elementary building, is getting a lot of carpet work done, which I'll talk with Corey Curry here. But we're also going to work really hard with WIN and doing some carpet replacement. And just so everybody knows, that's long-term facility maintenance, so it's monies that are already located, they're already in the levy, you already get them. And so this is just an opportunity to take advantage of some of it. So I'm not trying to preach on one side, we're going to get disruption of funds. Yes, we will. On different ways the money gets metered in and how we get it. So we are watching everything tightly, but this is something that we already have in the budget. So that I'm gonna go to Bill, I'm gonna come back to you. I'm gonna chop down to food nutrition. Paulette, you wanna cover a little bit about your plan here as we look at this week, May 1st and 4th, and then the end of the year, through the end of the year, please.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll continue with our curbside pickup May 1st and 4th. 4th would be one of our delivery days, so those will go on as usual. Nothing's going to change with those. I'll just skip down to, if we go to the end of the school year, the May 22nd plan, what we'll be looking at is our meal deliveries will continue the Mondays and Wednesdays of that week, with Wednesday being the last delivery date. And families can sign up through May 19. After that, they can't sign up for delivery because it will be done the next day. Excuse me. And then we'll have to work on getting our kitchens closed down. Because the elementary and WIN currently do curbside pickup, they cannot begin their shutdown until the 22nd. So we'll be looking at them having to be back into the buildings, begin and doing their shutdown on the 26th and 27th. However, the high school intermediate, their last delivery day will be on Wednesday the 20th. They can complete their kitchen shutdown on the 21st, 22nd. So that kitchen will be completely shut down by then. And then if things change, we don't do May 22nd, end of the year, then everything's just pushed into the next week. What we're looking at. We did just get some more information for another waiver to apply for. The waiver goes through April 30th. MDE will be doing an automatic rollover for the current waiver, the current extension into following the National School Lunch Program. They'll roll it over. It's good through June 10, but then they added an additional waiver that we just heard of this morning. that we'll be looking at trying to apply for. And we have to reach out to some, most likely the mayor of Glenwood, to try to get a letter from him stating economic hardship so we can apply for like the waiver. That's kind of wraps it up. We have to have final orders into our prime vendor this week. So, yeah, we'll need to know, once our decisions are made, when our last days of orders coming in, which would maybe be then the 21st of maybe some fresh produce coming in. But that'd be the extent of it.
Okay, any questions for food service? I want to thank them for, I don't know the exact meal. What's our total meal count so far, Paula?
Our total meal count, we're doing almost 300 deliveries for students, 300, or around 500 or so students that are participating.
Okay.
Between curbside pickup and delivery. So I think we're about 46% of our typical participation.
Okay, I'm gonna save you last for Bill. I'm gonna save you for last. Custodial, anything? Corey, you want to share?
As far as me,
Just get
it's
close
just-
to the speaker here if there's anything you want to share.
As far as me, I would just say that the carpet and asbestos that Mr. Rankin already addressed is going to be the biggest preparation for the summer. Coordinating that and lining that all up. Other than that, I mean, it's kind of continue on. We got a lot of areas that we've been cleaning up. We have more to do. Continue on with the classroom and the building cleaning, all that. Outside of that, it's just a lot of preparation for the summer working.
Any questions for Corey? Thanks, Corey, for everything. Tara?
Basically, just tracking all of the COVID-19 information through ASAP, payroll, an Excel spreadsheet. We have one employee who is going to be coming back now in May, who had taken a leave of absence in April, which is good, and answering questions about if people have any personal time and if they, can still use that, and then helping them and directing them to unemployment with any questions they might have.
Okay. Vicki, anything?
What would you like me to tell them?
Tell them that things are all gonna be just fine.
Things are gonna be fine.
Two
I'm
thumbs up.
continuing to work with the principals. I sent them spreadsheets to get their input on budgets for next year. Working on trying to get a close idea as to what they're all gonna spend yet this year. Chip and I really need some quality time together. We had 5 minutes today. So
You told
we're
everybody else we
working on
had
that.
7. Don't tell people 5.
So we're working on that. We do have to sit down and talk. I hear new things all the time, but we should look pretty well. We're still hearing that we could have a shift in getting our monies. I haven't heard from Polk County. Stearns County told us that they voted to have no penalties. I'm guessing Pope and Douglas did the same, but I don't have any information from them. We do have $287,000 in debt that we have to pay off between June 21st and the 1st of August. That'll come out of savings. Working on Fund 4, hoping that they come as close as possible so we don't have to eat to bring them back to a zero fund balance. The school age care that you're talking about doing for fees should help them. That should reduce it. That's all I have.
What debt do we pull out of savings?
We have to pay off interest for our bond, and we also have to pay PNC, which is those leases from Johnson Control, payments for them. the actual principal payments for the long-term debt is not until like February. So,
The concern is that we'll have a shift because no penalties, the county won't be able to give us the full amount, so then we have paid out our savings and we'll get into IE.
and I'm a little concerned because there's no standard what if for next year out at the state yet. Usually there's a what if that kind of gives us by category what we're going to get, as well as a revenue projection spreadsheet that's normally out there in April. It's not yet. Keep checking, but it's not there yet. So it's hard to predict revenue side right now. So we're working hard on trying to get a expenditure side done, at least for FY21.
The good news story though, in Becky's world is, we've actually picked up 2 additional students since closure, so enrollment has stayed steady, and we've even added 2 students, so that's spectacular, right Vicky?
Well,
Yes,
it's looking
just
better,
say
yes. I said that, it's looking better, yes, but
There we
that's
go.
because we're closing out budgets that aren't being spent.
I think I would say this, that how we finish this year will be better than we will be a year from now. Just because we were able to, there are some cost savings that do come with COVID, right? We're not running as many buses. We did get an email from Palmer. They're gonna give us a $300 a day fuel savings. So, you know, that is something, you know, because that'll equate to real money, you know, over the last 9 weeks of school. You can see I sent an email to our attorney because I think we should be even getting more. So I do think there will be some, and obviously we're not doing, I'll give you an example. Bill, my least favorite guy comes spring, because you wouldn't believe what Bill racks up in sub fees. If you're a golf coach, we see you 3 times all spring, okay? And then we have a sub that we're paying a full-time teacher plus that sub. And so sometimes that bill can be in the $40,000 range. Well, we don't have any subs this spring. Okay, I don't know that exact $40,000 figure, but we do know that we put a sizable amount of money into subs. Last year, the 712 billion was $87,000 alone. And so not having subs is a big deal. Right, Vicki?
Yes,
Awesome.
we shouldn't have any special ed teacher ever be a head coach.
Megan, you got anything? Life's good?
We can't find a sub with a degree.
Okay. Lisa, anything you wanted to add? Okay. Sarah Nestor? How's closure coming down of school readiness? Going well?
Things are going well. Yeah, we'll finish out our school year this Thursday. A lot of our end of the year tasks have already been kind of wrapped up these last few weeks. And teachers will finish things out as well. So things are looking good in early childhood end.
Thanks. Let's see, IT. Anybody else I did not touch? Okay. I'm going to turn over to activities now.
Okay, a couple things in the community ed front before we get to activities. We'll finish up with that. I've got Caitlin Silver. I think she's with us tonight. She's going to oversee our Laker Legends program. She's now the new coordinator of that program, and right now that is still set to take place. It might be the only thing right now set to take place, unless we hear something more from the governor here in the weeks ahead, which certainly could happen. But as right now, we're planning to hold that program. Caitlin, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
You want to talk a little bit about where we're at, some of the things we talked about today a little bit, about where that's at?
Yep. So currently we have 25 kids enrolled. Registration is set to close this Friday. There are still, I was talking to Audrey today, she said she figured at least 12 of the tier 1 students who she thought could potentially transfer from the child care that's being provided to them right now to Laker Legends. She was going to connect with families again this week so that they can get signed up before the registration deadline. I have had a few parents reach out asking if they can get their registration feedback, if they should have to continue to work from home this summer, so we might lose a few there. Obviously the program is a lot different than it has in the past, with no field trips or outings or anything, just because of our budget being pretty minimal. Kind of a bummer for the program, but I'm hoping to still get out and about and do like hiking and big kickball tournaments and stuff like that, but with all of the, local parks and stuff closed, it'll be a very different summer. As far as I know, we still have to stick to no more than a group of 10. So, we're gonna need more staff than we normally do, just because usually we only have 1, 2 staff members, and now we're going for sure 3 at a time. Potentially another staff member depending on, how many more registered. So, just kind of waiting to see what the final numbers are there. Still hoping to do the senior citizen center for meals, but we have to be to go since we're, not allowed to go there. And then still hoping that at least some of the Fridays in previous years we've, done takeout from some of our local restaurants, and still hoping to do that on some Fridays, as long as the budget allows. Like Bill said, as of right now, we know laser legends can happen. I've been in contact with the Alec Community Ed office and also Morris, and they're also kind of up in limbo, not knowing what's going on. So, as of right now, planning for it to happen and hoping it happens. Like I said, it'll look a lot different than it has in the past, but still hoping to make it a fun summer.
Okay, thanks, Caitlin. Summer recreation, that's likely going to be canceled. We are still exploring some options online, but let's face it, summer recreation is really based on kids getting outside of the classroom and being involved in physical activity, most of it outside, some of it in the gyms here, all those kinds of things. Again, I would say at this point look unlikely. We still haven't completely pulled the plug on that, but as we get into May here, we'll look a lot closer at that. Again, things change so frequently here, and I'm sure we'll hear from the governor a number of times before the end of May, but it looks more unlikely all the time. As far as activities are concerned, obviously, I think that was probably the biggest news last week. I don't think it was a terrible surprise for the governor to say that school was going to be canceled for the rest of the year. I think most of us knew, even though all of us, including me, and I think at least 5 people or 6 people in here who either parents or grandparents of children or in our activities programs, we're hoping that wouldn't be the case. But I think we all knew that was going to be the case, and shortly thereafter, on Thursday afternoon, the high school came out and canceled all spring league-sponsored activities as of last week as well. Very difficult, very disappointing, probably devastating is a better word for a lot of kids involved. They put a lot of work in over the years. The parents have poured in a lot of time. Just incredibly difficult, there's no doubt about it. The governor did say, I thought he made a good point last week, that these kids that have gone through this will probably be a lot better off for it in the long run, having to go through something that nobody's ever had to go through from senior and high school perspective, probably over the last century. When they deal with difficult situations as they move forward, they'll be able to handle it probably a lot better than most of us did, because there will be difficult times ahead for them. But after going through this experience, I think I don't know if, I think it'll do nothing but help them. So difficult right now, nonetheless. The nerves are really raw, and it's been very, very difficult. As a result of that, Heidi Weller, our administrative assistant, community activities, has been working on refunds. Heidi, are you with us tonight too?
Yep, I'm here.
Can you talk about as loud as you can, because it's a little difficult to hear you, but talk a little bit about how our refund process is going?
Yeah, community ed, pretty much all the refunds are done. If we cancel summer activities, there'll be more. One of the refunds that isn't done is New York, just because we don't know how much money we will be getting back. So we're kind of have to wait on that one. That might be this fall, because Beds at the Broadway shows are actually closed, and we won't know until they put a statement out. The refunds, like total, there's about 235, equates to nearly $24,000. For spring activities, I got about a little over 200 to do. I just started that today, but most of them did pay with credit cards, so that makes it a lot easier. But we are just refunding them back to how they paid, whether that was credit card or check or cash. They'll be getting a check back. Yeah, I've had a few questions. I get emails from parents. More it was right away, but I've been sending emails
they're all getting them, and yeah, keep buzzing away on them.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. The Minnesota State High School are getting back to the league again. After the cancellation late last week, they were originally going to get a email out to ADs on Friday and then Monday, and now I received an email middle of this afternoon from the league saying that tomorrow we'll finally get an update in regards to how our spring coaches, who obviously were very involved in this as well and have been since the beginning. It's incredibly difficult for them too to have their seasons pulled out from under them also. But a number of them had been working with optional online activities since the closure way back in March. That's one of the questions. One of the questions is what can those spring coaches still do with their kids, because as of last Thursday when they canceled the season, everything was out of season, so they couldn't even have an optional conversation with their participants, other than I think a number of them said, it's a tough deal, those kind of things, and we were going to allow that. But tomorrow we should have some clarification in regards to that. My hope is that they're going to allow that, which brings us to letter C, which I'll get to in a second, so that they can continue doing something with those kids the rest of the way through the end of the school year. We also have, tomorrow I expect some clarification on what might be going on in the summer. I know for sure a couple things. The blackout week that is usually 7 days around the 4th of July is now only going to be 4 days, and they will be able to work with their athletes, those who sign a waiver, which is everyone except for baseball and softball. They don't have to sign waivers. So coaches that sign a waiver, and that's all yet to be determined how that's all going to work, because their website's all being redone. At any rate, again, so there'll be some changes. I'm guessing there'll be a whole lot more changes, and they're also going to talk a little bit about the fall tomorrow. The high school league is really worried. There's no question about it. I was on a conference call for 2 hours this afternoon with a couple of associate directors for the league, and they're very, very, very concerned. This summer's one thing, next fall's a whole different thing. If we have to go into the fall with the same thing which we just experienced here, the high school league is going to be in a real bad spot, not to mention everybody else. But hoping for the best, preparing for things that may not go so well, but we'll see. So again, I expect all that information, some clarification, or I'll get it out to all board members as well as parents of spring participants if there's something new, and I'm sure there will be in regards to that. And then I'll get it out to the rest of our coaches in regards to what they can do with their students this summer and this fall. One of the things we talked about, the superintendent and I think a number of you as board members have talked a little bit about, do we allow, and again, it kind of depends on what we hear tomorrow from the high school league, but do we allow some supervised use of our school facilities for our athletes that follow strict social distancing guidelines? Do we do that? Do we allow that? Whether it's a tennis court, whether it's a track, Veterans Field, Marthaler Field, softball field, practice fields, do we allow 6 kids in the tennis court properly supervised? 6 or 8 kids running track, maybe over a half hour, an hour period. Maybe somebody else comes in, or another group after that, however they want to work it out. The baseball field, softball field. I've talked to our spring coaches about that, how they can see that working. If we're given permission to do so, if it's okay with the school board, this is something we want to explore. They will put something together. They will have it well supervised. Again, depends on what we hear tomorrow, and it kind of depends on the thoughts of our board members here and how they feel about that. I guess that's one question I really kind of want to get some feedback on tonight before we go forward, and depending on what we hear from the Minnesota State High School League tomorrow.
Just a reminder that I know you're responsible for our facilities, but you have to realize we're in a unique situation being a cornfield school. Most schools, their facilities will be sitting right in their communities, right in their towns. So, my previous district of Pequot Lakes, all their facilities are right in the middle of Pequot Lakes. So there are kids on their property all the time unless it's chained up, locked up, because that is the ballpark. There are kids running on their track. They also open the track at night for elderly people to walk on it because they don't have necessarily everything. So when you think about this, I need you to think what the state high school league is going to provide. Everybody's allowed to recreate. Well, that's cool if you live down in the metro because there's all kinds of built-up trails. Well, we're the only track in Polk County. So there might be some things that are going to come out. What I put in the note to Bill is Wayne State High School League guidance. But my thoughts are is if you're in Pequot Lakes or in Mora is right in the neighborhood. There's tracks open for elderly people to walk on it. Some schools are already doing this. So what's the difference between a lot of tennis courts, the only tennis courts are on school property. So I just need you to think about that, because it's easy to think about our situation, we're in the middle, but
I do know this, on Thursday before all this went down, prior to the governor speaking and then the high school league canceling activities, we had I think every AD in the state was on a conference call with a number of other associate directors at the league office. And much of it was, at least I found the most interesting part of it, I should say, is listening to Dr. Bill Roberts, who's the lead physician for the Minnesota State High School League, also works for the University of Minnesota. And he said something to the effect that over the course of the last 6 weeks during this virus outbreak, that the majority of adult Americans have become much more active in biking and walking and hiking and all those things we've heard so much about. They're probably in as good a physical shape over the last 6 weeks than Americans have over the last several decades. The completely opposite is true of our kids, who have so used to being so active, especially high school kids involved in activities. That's been taken away from them. They're in the house, they're going through several hours of school a day. Some get out, some don't. I mean, some of our coaches had kids getting out doing things, but it's completely opposite role reversal of how you generally think of things being. And they really emphasized the mental health of our young people, not only our adults obviously, but our young people who are going through this as well, being probably more critical than the physical part of it. But both of them are very, very important. And he really pushed the idea. I was surprised to hear him say that, because I thought he was going to say just the opposite. Stay away from facilities at school, don't have anything to do with it, keep the social distance way the heck off the property. But that's not what he said. He said if it was properly supervised, he thought that would be good. Obviously, especially with everything kids have been going through, to have the opportunity to in limited numbers, very limited numbers, and properly supervised with social distancing on sites of school property where these things were available. Again, he stressed more than once the social distancing, properly supervised, those kind of things. But he thought it was important that kids were able to get out and exercise, much like adults have encouraged to do over the last several weeks.
So just so everybody knows, everything is still closed until we get further guidance from the State High School League. But I think Bill's looking for some feedback, because my recommendation following this meeting is we cancel the work session in May. This is our work session, as we're going to put some things into action for May. And since you've been going to meetings every 2 weeks and getting rich on mileage, kidding, we want to make sure that we get some guidance tonight. So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to go reverse order. I'm going to start with you and work our way down and end in the room here.
Well, ultimately, some programs such as speed and strength are not going to look the same. We're not going to have kids gathered in the weight room 20 deep and running their stations. It's going to have to be something that we're just going to have to adjust and adapt and create something that's a little more unique. Obviously, we need to get kids out and need to be active, not only as Bill said, for physical health, but also for mental health needs. So, yeah, I think ultimately though, we need to have some guidance from the State High School League, and they, from my perspective, have not been really quick to respond to this issue when it first started, so that's where I sit.
Dr. Meyer?
I know just from a medical standpoint, I think it'd be really important to give some weight and merit to what Megan is able to get from many other schools. Once the high school league does give some guidance on this, on what your concerns are, would be from a school nurse perspective. I know from a medical perspective, the few doctors that I've talked to would be very, very cautious of the type of activities. I know some are completely against it, especially ball hand, touching face, all that kind of stuff. Also, if it's not supervised, just like we see kids ride around the neighborhood and then they're distanced and then they get together and stop at the end and they all sit and chit chat. So that's where it's going to be really hard. Obviously, we need to have some common sense and some sense of normalcy, but I think it's important to really weigh in on all the perspectives. And if you'd like, as a board perspective, I can ask some suggested guidance to consider.
Thanks. I don't think I think we could have it, but as soon as you give me that guidance, there'll be 4 parents that find 4 doctors that say the exact opposite. So I think we'd have to be careful who we collect it from, but I definitely think it'd be valuable. Like for instance, I know right now, the protective measures given to us, COVID does not survive more than 3 minutes when exposed to UV light. So outside, it's very safe. It's inside. And we'd have to, my personal feeling is until the high school league has very specific guidance, and then we'd have to really take a look at that. And then, true, if this doesn't happen in the next few weeks, it's gonna be a ghost town on Pyramid. There won't be any supervision because we just don't have anybody here. So I feel like.
And I'm sure Megan has some information, and yeah, you're gonna have physicians or parents that speak up. However, they're also not the medical experts. So it's got to be looking out for everybody and being able to do it in the situation that keeps most people safe.
Thanks. Director Salvaggio?
No, I think that we get direction from the state high school league, like those that hopefully they'll get the proper protocols. And all we hope to do is say, make sure that this is how you should be. All of that. We get feedback from lots of people. Probably be others in line. So if the high school league says this is how you do it, this is how we're saying we do it, then that's wrong. It's kind of like shelter in place. Every government says shelter in place. So you don't have to do this. It's totally kind of more liability as far as I'm concerned.
Thanks. Mr. Gugusberg?
Yeah, for me, the big concern would be monitoring it. I agree. I agree a lot with being outdoors, things like that. Not a problem at all. The problem is when you have, let's say, the tennis courts at the high school are open, they're not locked, they're just there, and people in the community find out that you can just go play tennis out there because you can at City Park, you can at Parsons Park. Then do we have people who enjoy the game of tennis, which is fine in an outdoor sport, start using our facilities out at the high school that isn't supervised. Also, we went into a lot of efforts to making sure this past year that we're monitoring who was on our grounds and on, in our buildings for extracurricular practices or things like that. So we have to have a serious plan in place on, whether it was renting the field or whatever to track who's there and for liability wise.
Thanks. Mr. Holberg?
I guess my opinion honestly is as soon as the governor lifts the stay at home, I don't see there's any problem to have kids come out and run around the track and maybe hit some tennis balls on the court and maybe go in the cage and throw the ball around a little bit if it's supervised, which I think, Bill, you originally thought that was gonna be the case anyway. So stay at home lifted, people going back to work, doing some other things, there's nothing wrong with having kids come out here and do some stuff that's supervised.
Okay. Mr. Barsness?
I think these guys have touched it pretty well. I would say get people out as soon as possible, but we have to follow the protocols of the governor's office.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about this all night, but until, a few things happen at the top, nothing's gonna change. The only thing that I could hope, and that I guess I would push for, is that we look at this problem through multiple lenses. If we're only looking through it through the lens of, stopping the virus, there is a certain way to do it. Yep, lock it down, nobody move, try to snuff it out. But if we do it just through that lens, there's going to be lots of problems that start to arise, bigger problems. So, if there's any message that we could push forward from our board or from our school district, is making sure that we're looking through it, through everything. And for example, where my thought process is we're starting to see it. Obviously, I have an agricultural background. The stay-at-home thing is working. It's slowing, it's flattening the curve, but now, some things have to continue to move. as you can see, some of these meatpacking places are starting to spring up. You know, if we just all stay at home, we're gonna have a bigger issue than just the COVID. We're not gonna have food. You know, so there's gonna be a happy medium, hopefully, that we can find a balance. And when we're kind of getting to that point now, right? We kind of flattened the curve, but it's still kind of going. It just happened to be getting into some of these plants now, and we're starting to hear a lot about it. Hopefully, everything settles back down, but that's the thing. Looking at it through multiple lenses, so things return to normal as quickly as possible, because, I mean, if we don't get to that, we're gonna have bigger fish to fry than worrying about a virus.
So I want to recap tonight. Overall reminder that our facilities remain closed, our building remains closed. It's not open. It will stay that until we get further guidance. If we get more guidance from the State High School League, you know, to me, I think that the problem is if they're closing parks and facilities in the cities, and the State High School League wants to open facilities, I think we're weeks away from getting a decision. And so it might solve itself. It's a problem because it'll be summer and who knows what's going to happen. And I think, well, I wanted to bring it up tonight so everybody can just start to think about it, because there will be a reopening at some point, and people just gotta think about what that might be. And there's varying opinions on everything out there. So it wasn't like I don't agree. I just think it's one of those things that you can turn on any channel on, you can talk to any expert, and they'll give you differing opinions. And I think right now, until we get further guidance, I think it's the job of the board, and my job is to recommend things to you that protect our school district. Sometimes when you protect the school district, sometimes it doesn't feel as friendly as the user. So you're not on the tennis court because the school district believes that it's in the, I'm not saying we're always gonna have risk, or we would cut football tomorrow. We cut all sports, right? Vicky, don't put that in the budget. And so I think our job is to just kind of be aware of things that come. So what's gonna happen in the next couple of days is, to go back to my calendar analogy, what is going to happen, so tonight's the 27th. Tomorrow, Angie and I have drafted a letter. We're gonna wanna get out some of the parents before the next 24 hours. So there'll be a message going to all parents reminding them that there's no school, no instruction on Friday, no instruction on Monday, meals will be delivered. And then we'll talk about, I'm gonna put the screen up. Does anybody just thumbs up? Is everyone kinda okay if we modify the school calendar? Thumbs up, sideways, or thumbs down? Okay, so we're unanimous that we'll adjust the school calendar for May 22nd, okay? And then we'll do a collection. Any questions? Everybody cool with the plan that presented to you tonight? Any thumbs up if you're okay with the plan overall? Okay? So we'll work on implementing that plan. That plan will be, not that whole plan, will be similar to that plan. We'll put in a draft letter summarized, so it's easy to read for parents. We'll go out in the next 24 hours. This plan will also go to all staff in the next 24 hours. And then we'll have I will host a Google Hangout Friday morning for all staff that I will record, so people that can't watch it can watch it at any given time. At that point, I'll really be working with my subordinate, or my immediate supervisors, our principals, our buildings and grounds people, to communicate this to the lowest level out to the widest masses. Sorry, I didn't mean to use the word subordinates, too much army, but I will work on make sure it's communicated out to the masses. That letter will come out in the next 24 hours. And then you'll see plans. Mr. Chair, my recommendation is if you have a direct graduate, so Mr. Holberg, if you have people that you really want to be at graduation, notify. Mainly you'll be sitting on a chair. I can spatially distance you as there's a chance you might be on, I don't know, you might be on a flat of a semi, a semi-trailer. You might be on a rise platform, but I can definitely put anybody out there. There'll be plenty of seats if you want to attend. It's just that you'll be spaced, but you probably will not be a very active participant in graduation, because we'll be shaking your hands. How we hand out diplomas and all that, we'll work through that. But just let Angie know the next 2 weeks if you're going to attend graduation. And then obviously we would execute this plan. And then our next event, Mr. Chair,
is we need to have some subcommittee meetings, so we need to get the finance committee together. I do believe we need to have another activities committee meeting in May. So as foregoing a board work session for all of us, because realistically, this is kind of gonna be the plan we execute. The personnel committee needs to get together. We've already got a meeting on Wednesday with our interim superintendent. We got some contract stuff we need to look at. Finance committee needs to start looking with Vicky. Well, I'll need to lock some dates down.
Oh, but when are you meeting with them?
We're meeting on Wednesday. Yes, we'll spend some quality time together. That we'll work through that piece, and then
Finance meeting when?
it's this Wednesday. Remember that we have that Google Hangout?
Okay, what time is that on Wednesday?
I think it's at noon, Mr. Chair.
Alright, very well.
But I'll circle back and look at that for you. So we'll execute this plan. Instead of having another work session a week from Wednesday, Mr. Chair, my recommendation is the next couple of weeks we have our subcommittee meetings. So finance needs to get together, personnel needs to get together, facilities needs to get together. I'm sure you've got a gazillion policies. So I know policy committee needs to look at handbooks that'll be coming your way the next, I think, a week from Wednesday. And then I need to get activities committee. So before our next board meeting, we'll have some subcommittees that will meet remotely. And then our next meeting, Mr. Chair, will be, I believe, May 18th will be our next actual board meeting, Mr. Chair. So that's my recommendation. So that's kind of how we're gonna lay things out for the next, 24 hours and then into next week. So that wraps up my part. Turn over to you.
Do we have any questions or any comments amongst the board members?
Yeah, I just have one, Mr. Christensen. I just want to thank Superintendent Rankin and Corey and Sarah and the other admin that have helped put this together. Jackson, your son, some of the other students that have been a part of this, helping orchestrate some sort of a graduation, because you look around the state and the rest of the country and there's a tremendous amount of schools that will have nothing. And like I say, as a parent of a senior and knowing a lot of the seniors, knowing a lot of the parents of seniors, I think everybody would be pretty appreciative, and I know I am. So I just wanted to thank you guys for getting creative. We'll just have 2 days of no rain, please. Any other members of the board? Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
So pay attention to the announcements and cross off 5/6/20 special work session. With that being said, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn at 7:32.
Parsons makes a motion.
Do we have a second?
Reichman second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Christensen's yes. Holberg.
Yes.
Meyer. Meyer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Parsons?
Yes.
Devajo? Yes. Reichman?
Yes.
Lewisburg? Yes.